Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm here with TrustLogix, and the topic for today is building the policy control plane, the architecture behind TrustAI. I'm with Ganesh Kirti, who's the founder and CTO of TrustLogix. Hi, Ganesh.
Hey
Welcome.
Scott,
Good to see you.
Good to
So
see you. It's looking forward to this conversation.
cool. Why are we here and what are we talking about? We're talking about AI agents in the enterprise, right? And people unleashing thousands of AI agents, and that makes some people uncomfortable, right? These agents can operate at machine speed, and most enterprises are not prepared for that. They're used to operating permissions at human speed, and they have static permissions often. So there's kind of a mismatch in the market, and that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how these these policies and these frameworks and these architectures have to catch up to the agentic world, which moves in real time. It doesn't really slow down for humans, and they can make millions of requests and be doing all sorts of things. Ganesh, you know more about it than I do, right? Tell me what you think. How did you first encounter this challenge, and what's going on?
Scott, it's great talking to you. We have been at TrustLogix, just to set the context. We have been working with large companies, Global 20 and F500 in financials and healthcare and different verticals, and helping them secure their data. So we're talking about the business sensitive data. And we've been doing that across on-prem databases, cloud databases like Snowflake, Databricks, and analytics systems like Power BI. Now, over the last 2 years or so, we've been continuing to work with these customers and then learning about the AI and what's going on with this AI and AI agents. And one of the things we found out is the way things are secured today, is completely broken. So the way the security policies have has been going on is, you create policies for humans. As you know, humans, they work from 8 to 5 p.m. They go home. The policies work great for that, right? Now, what we are seeing now is the agents that are autonomously making decisions, and they're connecting to different data sets, different databases, different data, structured, unstructured. They are making decisions. And those agents are deployed hundreds and hundreds and thousands, the way we see it over the next 2 years. Now, that security of manual way of doing things is not going to work. So that's what I'm excited about talking about that with you today. And the way we have done is working with these large companies. We built a completely a preventative architecture that is purpose built for these agents. And then this is really all about how proactively can we secure data in these agents before the data gets even accessed by agents for making decisions. So it's really
Great.
all about the proactively and how automatically can you secure this data. So that's what we have done here working with these customers.
Right. Well, let's start like how do they actually perceive the risk level when they're entering the agentic AI universe, which we're reading about it in the news every day? How do they first encounter this, and how do they think of the risks?
The risks are, primarily, as there are a lot of AI security vendors doing different use cases, different solutions, right? So, there is traditionally most of the solutions typically are configured at the edge level. They're looking at the input and output and prompts, and then trying to filter out, prompts, and then the good prompts, bad prompts, and the responses, right? So, which is fine. But the problem that we found out, which is most complicated, most of these large companies that we are working with, is the business data, the business sensitive data. And that really comes at the boundary of where the data access and identities come together within the agents to make decisions. So that's really where we see the biggest challenge for these companies, how can they enable agents with the data they need to make decisions, but at the same time have a control, and then secure the data from the compliance and privacy and entitlements around what these people are allowed to do in these agents. There are various combinations that you need to consider when it comes to making that decision. So that's really the focus where we saw biggest challenge for these companies, and then we are helping them, address that problem.
Excellent. So Ganesh, tell us how some of this exactly works. Like you already have you have several products, and you built TrustAI specifically for some of these problems. But you have a platform. Tell us how you build a unified policy control plane. How does it work?
Yeah, what the way we looked at it is, we really spend a lot of time understanding, what is going on in these environments, right? There is a data, there is data structured and unstructured data, and then there is agents that are you're building, the developers are building, and then there is a initiators, let me call them like the users, right? They're running the prompts in these agents to make to gain insights into the data, and then from the data and then make decisions. So what we have been doing last few years is, we have these two layers, Trust Access and Trust ESPM, which is really the data security platform that we had built, that was really doing two key capabilities in that platform. One is the visibility control, the DSPM capability, and then it also had the access control, fine-grained access control. So we had those two key capabilities working together, securing access to data for these large companies. So what we have done is that architecture has been proven. We are securing with our customers today, petabytes of data, without any performance impact. So, and that architecture is really about securing data at the storage level, making sure that people have access to the data. That's really working very well architecturally. Now, what we have done is we extended that our same base platform to secure agents, to secure data that is required by agents. So that's what we call Trust AI. So the way it works is it's really built using the AI, and we've got LLMs, purpose-built LLMs. Uh, you know, we have tuned our LLMs to really understand what this data security means, what the policies means, and we also have something called policy, the policy context graph, which really understands the business context of the data, whether the data is sensitive, whether data has any classification, whether the data has any SLAs, business SLAs associated with it. So we call that policy context graph, which is really important. The engineering architecture that we had built, and that policy context graph is really, really differentiated how we do it compared to any other architecture that I have seen. So we've got the data layer, we've got this policy context graph, we have LLM evaluators, LLM reasoning LLMs that we built it. These reasoning LLMs really understand when we are trying to make a decision whether a particular data set, when the agent is looking to access data, is this agent, you know, has entitlement, what is the purpose of this agent? Who are the people trying to access this data through these agents? Is this the right time that agent is supposed to be accessing this data? Right? Examples like that, we consider all of them when the decisions are made. So that's really the Trust AI architecture has built in all these components sitting
Right.
on
And
top
you
of our base
work, just to
platform.
be clear, you can integrate with many different types of the AI architecture, like the data pipelines, and you work with people like Databricks and Snowflake, right? Tell us how that works.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. We have a multi-cloud, multi-data platform, multi-agentic AI platform, solution. The way our solution sits in is it's kind of like the central policy control plane. Think of it like that. And then our architecture integrates with Snowflake and Databricks and SQL Server and various other data platforms like OneDrive and SharePoint in Microsoft ecosystem. It's integrated with all these data layer systems. And then we try to understand the semantic model across all these data systems, the
I see.
ontology, right, about this business data. And then we take that semantic and business model into our security policy context graph I talked about before to make decisions. So it's really looking at the data across multiple data platforms, Snowflake, including Databricks, on-prem databases. Uh, and then also
So
our platform
you
works
have
across.
partnerships. You have partnerships with them. They're not competitive with you. They're your friends.
Yeah, so we are a technical certified partner with them, and typically what we do is we are a complementary solution. Um, just give you an idea, right? Most of the customer that we work with, they have multi-data platforms. Data is it's given to most of these enterprises. They have some workloads in Snowflakes. They have some workloads running in Databricks. They still have on-prem databases. Believe it or
Data's
not, even in
everywhere.
this world.
Data's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Data sprawl is given, right? That's just given, and you've got to get the data, make available to whether you're running ETL or whether you're running analytics, whether you're running LLM training, is SQL queries, whatever happens to be the case, right? Data has to be made available to them. And then how can you make sure that that same pattern, right, is possible for agents that they can get access to data, from the agents and then do that in a secure fashion. That's really what TrustAI's architecture is all about.
Excellent. And what about there's also um, IAM companies out there, identity access management like Okta and Ping,
Yeah,
and you have Active Directory. Tell us how you work with those. They're also your partners?
yeah. So we have integrations with the Okta and any SAML standards compliant the identity providers, right? We integrate with Microsoft Active Directory and Strata um, and various other identity systems. So we really are a complementary to them. We don't do authentication. We integrate with identity systems like Okta and Ping. We consume the token, OAuth token, for example, after the authentication happens at the agent level. We take that authentication token, and then we get the identity context from the token, and then we use that further to process the policy-based access for this identity. So it's really the complementary solution. Uh, Most of our customers have identity system, and they use
Right,
us in conjunction with them.
right, right. You're using that data as well as your own governance policies together.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent.
Yes. And
And
that's the
tell me
only
a
way it
little bit
makes sense.
about you talk about a shift left approach. You talk about how you can build this functionality into the agentic applications, correct? So that they work in concert. Tell us how that works.
Yeah. So, this, the proactive preventative model I was talking about earlier, right? It's really all about, how early in the process or in the pipeline of agentic processing pipeline, right? How early can you, you know, uh, embed the security? That's the concept here. You know, Most of the time, the companies out there rely on looking at audit data, monitor them, what's going on, right? It's too late already. By that time the data is already processed, agents have already made decision, data is already exposed. So what we are doing now with the shift left approach we put together here in architecture is, while the agents are being built, we can embed the security. It's security by design. We have building blocks. We have our own MCP service that we make it available for our customers, and we have various deployment options. Customers can pick and choose based on the use case. So at the very early part of the agentic processing, right before they even connect to the databases, we enable agents to embed the data security at that point. And then so let me give you a specific example, right? Let's say that I'm a research analyst, looking to use agent to get access to some research reports. Now, let's say the data is sitting in Snowflake. The agent is, there is a MCP service that agent is using to connect a Snowflake to get access to data. So the way it works is before the agent goes to Snowflake to get the data, it, it connects with the TrustLogix MCP service. It will ask for, okay, look, here is a user, here is the research analyst, he's
Just to
trying to
be
get
clear,
access to data.
like an MCP server.
Yes.
Where is that? How are they connecting to it?
So in general, the way it works is, you got the agent, and then the agent talks to an MCP service, and then that MCP service is probably connected to the Snowflake in this flow, in this example,
I
right?
see.
So between the Snowflake database and then the agent, there is an MCP service in between. In a typical case, you just use those MCP services to get the data, and then you're processing, right? Your research analysts get the data. Now, what we're doing is, change that process before you talk to the, MCP service here, right? You talk to the TrustLogix policy service, which is another MCP service. It will ask a question, TrustLogix, policy service, is this user allowed to do this operation? What data is allowed for this user, right? Then we give that context, policy context, and then the agent will take that context and then embed that context in the query before it sends to the Snowflake through MCP service. So that's really how data gets filtered. And then that's the approach we talk about shift left, the
Hmm.
governance shift left. Right before agent gets any data, right? Your security gets embedded, data security gets processed, access control decisions are made, and then you only get access to data what you're allowed to access. That's
I
really
see.
the shift left approach we talk about.
And also, my understanding, this all runs, you have purpose-built AI, purpose-built LLMs to help this run. Is that correct? Tell us how that works.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we have been spending a lot of time, last 18 months, working with these large companies I talked about. And we realized that, you know, the scale at which the agents are getting deployed, the static rules we talked about, static security doesn't work. It has to be dynamic, and it has to be less hallucinations in this process also, right? The security has to be deterministic. Yeah, when you say here is the data, here is the access, it has to be deterministic. It has to be, there has to be evidence. So to make that possible across these agents, what we have done is we've got multiple LLMs that we internally built out. Obviously we use LLMs out there, but we tuned them. We use various evaluator LLMs and reasoning LLMs. I talked about earlier the policy context graph. These are all the different building blocks that we have built. All of them work together. When the request comes in from an agent, is this request, is this user, what is he allowed to do, or what is she allowed to do, right? That is where the dynamic access control comes into the picture. That's where our internal LLMs and internal AI processes, right, are looking at what is this agent, what is the purpose of this agent, what is it trying to do, what is the intent of this agent request, right? Looking at all these various, plus in addition to that, it looks at the data business context. What is this data, right? Is it a sensitive data? Does it have an SLA? Does it have a geographic boundary? It's looking at all these parameters and then making a decision. So
Hmm.
that's really the purpose-built LLMs. All the LLMs that we have are, making that possible,
Okay,
the
great.
dynamic access control decision.
So you are actually deploying this in the field, correct? And if
Yes.
can you tell us about a specific deployment or give us an example of how somebody's using this?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been working with some healthcare side, some financial vertical side. Uh,
A lot of
I'll talk
sensitive
about
data,
once.
a lot of sensitive data there, right?
Yeah, the financial companies, right? Absolutely. It's a lot of regulated data, and it completely makes sense, right, for them to think about security there. And what we have done, Scott, is we partner with one of the global investment bank. And what we ended up doing is they have agents that they are built, and they had huge concerns around the business data coming into the agent, and then how do you control that? How do you get visibility, right? So On top of that, they also had huge concerns around the developer compliance. Even though the risk team and security team has put together a set of risk policies that business teams had to, you know, fulfill those policies, but the security team had concerns that like developers may not be compliant, when by when they're implementing the agents. So what we have done is
Because
we have
are
deployed.
they just vibe coding things up and then throwing them out there? Is that the idea?
Yeah, so they've got, they use a lot of open source. They have Llama Index, one such, the agent platform, open source platform. They use that to build uh, the agents, and they have written a lot of custom logic. It's an investment bank, as you can see. They have to be very, very careful of what they're exposing through their agents. So they have built all that custom logic. So what they have done is by deploying Trust AI solution, they were able to achieve two things. So one is the shift left approach I talked about. They were able to use Trust AI to enforce the policy-based access into the agent. So very early, step in the agentic processing, they call TrustLogix MCP service. They ensure that the policies are enforced before data is utilized in the agent. So that's one thing they were able to do. The second thing they were able to do is, we have something called, Guardian Agent. Think of it like, Microsoft Copilot, right? Which is really equivalent of, the Microsoft Copilot. In this case, in our case, it's a Guardian Agent, which is really gives the visibility to the CISO organization. In this
That's a
company,
good
in this
name, by the way.
bank,
Did you come up with that name? Guardian
the
Agent?
Guardian Agent.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're listening to our customers. Some of these things are coming, in our conversations with our customers, and sometimes they tell us, what they see this as, right? Then I've heard it from one of our customers. They thought that, yeah, this is a Guardian Agent. I said, yeah, this makes sense. So we are actually, partnering with these customers, right? So a lot of these concepts I talked about, architectural concepts, also we built it working with these customers. This reasoning LLM I talked about, the policy context graph, right? These are all very collaborative nature that we ended up,
And
building
in
out.
one description I heard, it's you can also segment the data internally, right? Like so if it's a financial company, some somebody's role might be to access a certain amount of data, but not other parts of the business. Is that how
Yeah,
they're
so
using?
there the policies, absolutely, yes, you're right. There are the policies that you could say that, certain people in certain geographic region, can access certain data, within the same table you might have, same document, right? But then there could be a policy that says that, same document could be accessed in different parts for different people in different regions, with the anonymized data set, for example, right? So, what we had to do is based on the policy, when the response is going back, we may need to redact some of the, sensitive information. So these are all the policies. Uh, the beauty of our architecture and the solution that coming back to this case study, right, this bank, is none of the developers had to think about these things, right? They just focus on building the intelligence and business logic in their agents without having to think about security, without having to think about implementing these rules, right? So this is externalized now based on the policies. Now the security team can have visibility into what policies are enforced. The security layer is externalized into Trust AI, and then the Trust AI is enforcing all these policies. Um, and then with that, agents are, developers are able to build and deploy agents much faster. Uh, so just to kind of complete that, the question that you had asked, right? One is the policy-based access that this customer is able to do. The second thing they're able to do is using our Guardian agent, they're able to get visibility into all the developers, what type of policies that are enforced there, what type of, data sharing is happening in the agent. So
Right.
that's
There's
how
also a
the
way
security
to
team.
there's also an audit trail there too, right?
Absolutely. So that's exactly right. And that's how the security teams are able to get evidence, looking at the audit trail, looking at all the, the activity around the data, what type of queries are running in the database. So all that audit trail is made available to them.
Right. So
Absolutely.
how fast is this stuff happening these days? Like as an analyst, I study, I do case studies, and I talk to practitioners who are deploying AI. But you probably see even more people than I do because you're talking to all the potential customers. How fast is this happening out there? How fast are they trying to get their agentic AI applications going?
I know, like, it looks like a, complicated, science fiction in some cases. But, look, Scott, this is moving so fast right now. I've seen at some of the customers, they have hundreds of MCPs already they're deploying in the company.
Wow.
And this is so fast, and the security teams are not able to, cope up with the velocity at which these things are happening. And it's just like, if you don't really think properly at this point, and if you don't have the right infrastructure, right security by design, right, if you don't embed that, it's going to become completely, exponentially complicated in 6 months, 1 year from now, when there are going to be thousands of agents already running in your company, right?
Wow.
At that
Yeah.
point, every agent brings a risk. Every agent in this case, right? If you don't have the proper security in place already, every agent becomes a super user, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Every agent is able to access data. Every agent is an insider threat,
That's right.
right? That risk, exponentially grows, and it's moving very fast. And we're already working with our large customers. Um, you know, it's definitely like moving much, much faster than we think.
Excellent. Well, that's a good place to wrap up. I think to kind of close the loop on all this stuff. Tell us what are your ideal outcomes for customers when they're adopting your technology? What are the key outcomes you're looking to get?
So there are two key things we are looking to help. Our vision here, right, is one is we really want to make sure that the any given enterprise, right, the agent developers become good citizens, right? We want to enable them, with the data they need, agents need, and so that they can move faster. So we want to make sure that the developer compliance is addressed for them, and moves them much faster. That's one. The second thing, from the security team's perspective, while security team is enabling the businesses, we want to make sure that security team has complete control into how things are done, how agents are deployed, what data is accessed in an automated fashion. As the agents are getting deployed, this entire thing scales automatically. So the
Hmm.
two things: one is that agent developers, we want to enable them with what they need to do within the, for their agent development and deployment. From the security perspective, we want to enable them do this in a secure and compliance and mostly automated fashion, with a complete visibility into this process.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm really happy that you're watching all this stuff and you're securing it because like you said, it does, when I read about it and I see it, it does seem like science fiction, and I get very nervous about all these agents running around it, but it sounds like you guys are on top of it. So that's a relief. Um, Thank you very much, Ganesh, for your explanation of what's going on, and thanks for TrustLogix for letting me have this conversation with you.
Great. Thank you, Scott. I really enjoyed it.
So we had a great conversation with Ganesh here at TrustLogix, and really he did a good job explaining to me, the lowly industry analyst, how to understand this stuff, how to build in policy controls for agentic AI, which it seems really obvious, but I think when all this agentic AI stuff happened really fast, right? And as I spoke with Ron, the CEO of TrustLogix, also, we talked about this pressure to implement these systems in the enterprise, and everybody's under pressure to build the productive AI systems, but you need some sort of universal policy control, and that's what this platform brings to the picture to to kind of rule and bring compliance and guardrails to all these thousands, if not millions, of agents that are going to be deployed in the enterprise today. So found it really interesting. Thank you.